Good morning, everybody. This is Keith Salmon from Keith Salmon Coaching. Welcome aboard the Million Dollar Story Series. The Million Dollar Story Series is about me getting in touch with people who've had a journey in their careers, in their lives, and have gotten to the place where they are right now through sometimes adversity, sometimes adaptation, sometimes survival. Whatever it is, it's their own. And I'm honored to have Amanda Lee joining us this morning. She is a health and wellness mentor up from Canada, from Toronto, right, Amanda?
Correct. Yes.
Good morning. I can still say that. Sometimes we're straddling time zones, and it's a pleasure to have you on board. I'm going to just check one thing really, really quick, and just double, triple check that we are going and live. I just want to double check. That's always good to know. So I've watched a little bit of your videos, and I know that one thing that you do, and if you wouldn't mind, I think it's a really excellent way of getting people who are listening to settle down and to get into the present space. Would you take over the show for a second and get everyone to?
Yes, I would love to. I'm so glad you asked. But before I do, Keith, may I just say, I've been watching your series and I love this series. I think it is a fantastic idea. I love what you're sharing. So I want to say thank you for that. And thank you for having me to be a part of it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate that so much.
You're welcome. So yes, I like to begin. Those people who know me and follow me and are in my group will know that I like to begin by inviting everybody to become present so that you can really connect with what's happening right here, right now, because we are so busy and we're so distracted that we often are only like barely listening to what's happening while we're doing 5 other things. So I want to invite you to close out any other tabs that you might have open. I want to invite you to let go of all the noise and distraction around you. And if you can, wherever you are, very comfortably put your feet flat on the floor so you can get a sense of being grounded, and bring some relaxation very intentionally into your shoulders and into your jaw. These are places where we love to hold tension. So let's bring some relaxation into that. And then I will invite you to just allow a couple of really deep belly breaths where the exhale is long and slow and intentional. And if you want to place a smile on your face at the same time, it'll send a signal of pleasure to the brain. So it's like, yeah, I'm really enjoying this experience. And that is a beautiful gift that you could give to your nervous system. Awesome.
Wow, you met me too. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, gosh, where do I go from here? Thanks for doing that. Go right ahead, Emmett.
Well, I was just going to say, our breath. I say this all the time, that our breath is our superpower. Our breath is a tool that we can use to help bring calm very quickly to the body. And so, just doing like 3 to 5 of those breaths can really shift everything in you and put you into a different space, a different perspective.
I'm with you on that. I forget about that so many times. I mean, I do a lot of yoga class, and so many times, I don't have as rigorous of a quote unquote practice as maybe I should. But when I get through half of a class and I realize I haven't intentionally had a breath in this class, and then I do, it changes everything.
For sure. Yeah.
Sometimes we're just going along in our whole day and our whole life without breathing. It's kind of amazing. So, well, thank you for settling us all in. And I really picked up on that. I mean, obviously, right off the bat, it's a great way to plant yourself right where you are for the moment. And we are in a world of, believe me, since this morning, of technology and all those kind of things that, like you said, close some tabs, close some things. It's like, it's hard to not have distractions like every 5 seconds. So I appreciate you doing that. So I love that you call yourself a mentor as opposed to sometimes the, I think coaching is something that everybody does and everybody knows what that is. But I love the term mentor. Was there a conscious decision about that you?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
So I'm very particular about the words that I use and the words that I speak, because I do believe that words have power and they can invoke things in us, So for me, the word coach feels a bit hard or a bit harsh. I'm not saying that this is how everybody has to feel about it. This is what it is in my experience. And it can give the impression that this person is above me or maybe knows more, than somebody else. And so for me, I like the word mentor because I don't really think I'm better than anybody else. And I'm not saying that every coach thinks that they're better than everybody else. That's not what I'm saying. That's just my feeling of the word. And I don't feel that I am. I feel that I have come on a journey. I have done a lot of education and learned a lot of things. And I can share that with somebody who maybe isn't that far along on their journey or hasn't yet learned that. And I want to be there to help and support and uplift and inspire the women that I work with. And I really want to work on that, get on that same level and hold your hand and walk you through it and mentor you on your journey to health and wellness. And so for me, yes, it was a very conscious decision to use the word mentor. And I'll share with you, Keith, that when I was starting out, everybody told me not to use that word because everybody said people won't understand it. Everybody knows what a coach is, and that's the word that's used, right, in our, in our society, in our culture. And so people will get confused and they won't know. And I have stuck with it. I said, no, I'm not using the word coach. I'm using the word mentor, and that's why I do it.
Well, you stand out that way too. That's the way I see. I mean, that's why I brought it up, because it's like, well, that's different. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in the health, it's leadership in a way, but it's not so much above someone else. So health and wellness, it's a big, wide open area, and I can tell that from the being grounded, being present, being breathing exercise to start what we're doing is about your physical being, but it's also about your mental state of being. So you want to just tell us a little bit about your, what you do basically.
Yeah. So what essentially I do is I work with women, helping them to improve their self-care. Now, self-care in and of itself is a very big, broad term, and it's widely overused in our culture. So people get kind of confused about self-care because we often think of self-care to be bubble baths and spa days. And this thing that we do when we get really burned out, oh, now I've got to do some self-care practices. And certainly self-care is bubble baths and, spa days. Certainly those fall under that umbrella heading of self-care. But self-care really is caring of yourself. It's caring of yourself. And that is something that you need to do every single day. And when you are practicing self-care, and when you are doing that, your health and wellness automatically improves. And so, it's essentially self-care is the work that I do. And that's what I help women with because, it's that saying, Keith, you can't get water from a well that's dry. I'm sure you've heard that saying at some point before. It's very common. Yeah. And it's true, right? If there's no water in the well, you're not getting any water. But the same is true for you. If you aren't filling yourself, if you aren't giving to yourself and caring for yourself, what happens? You burn out. You're running on empty, and then you're trying so hard to give to your business and to give to your family and to your friends and to everything that needs you throughout the day. And you're doing it from that empty, burned out place. So I'm all about putting yourself at the top of your to-do list, learning how to fill yourself first, so that you're living and giving from your full self. And imagine the world that we would live in if everybody was doing that. It would be a completely different place.
Right. Well, I can completely relate to that. It's one of those things that with self-care, even though your heart's in the right place, being, I went through that as being a provider, trying to be a provider at all cost. And what it ended up doing is it costs so much more than if I would just take a little bit better care of myself. both mentally, physically, the whole thing, is sleeping all the way through it. And then you end up not being able to provide what you wanted to provide in the first place. And it does absolutely affects, it's a, what is it? Is residual effect? It just reaches out to people around you. It's really a great thing to do. And like, even in survival, they always say that thing about, in the airplane safety things, put the mask on first before you can help other people, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think the misconception for a lot of people is that self-care is selfish. Right. Mm-hmm. So if I'm giving to myself first, then I'm not, caring for my children as well, or for my partner, or I'm not able to, give the time to my business in the same way, etc. And it's actually an illusion. And just as you've just said, because when you're not doing that, you're not actually giving your full self to any of that. Right. Your kids aren't getting the best of you. Your partner isn't getting the best of you. Your business isn't getting as much as you can give to it, because you're trying to do it from that exhausted place. And that's a lot harder. That's a lot more work. And then what can also happen, and this is a lot of the women that I work with, is that it starts to show up in your health, and you start to get run down in your health. And when that happens, you're going to be on a much longer journey. Like, it's going to require a lot more time and effort and energy for you to get back into good health, to do all of those things. When if you were just giving to yourself every day, and that's your commitment and that's your practice, you don't get to that point of burnout. That doesn't happen.
Right. Right. Have you, this is, I would call it an evergreen conversation, because we're talking about everything in the world, but we are in an unusual part of a little bit of a rough patch, so to speak, in the world right now. And I think that people had to adjust. I certainly did. It's like one day, it's like everything's good. Yoga studios open. The LA Marathon was about 2 blocks from where I am. I'm in Santa Monica, California, by the way. And things seemed like okay. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, you're going to do the best you can, but you can't leave your house, and just try to stay in shape, eat well, don't worry about anything, and we'll get through this. And I think there was sort of like that healthcare, self-care paralysis, at least for me. I'll just speak for myself. It's the best thing. The only thing I can do is that I saw it in myself, try to get in there, try to, maintain some sorts of balance, and it's very difficult. Have you found a lot of people kind of like was there like a sort of a ripple effect? Say for example, it's the lockdown started happening, the self-doubt, the economic impact, all of the other stuff and then did it happen to have like a delay, like say 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks before? Because I know that asking for help is a really, really difficult thing. You don't feel it. You don't feel yourself turning into a monster. You don't feel yourself turning into somebody who just has to drink 7 cups of coffee in the morning and stuff like that. So I'm just curious if it took a little while for people to kind of realize and step out of themselves to ask for some help. Just a broad question.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't know that there is one way or the other. I think it was different for different people. I think some people right away felt it because all of a sudden their distractions were gone. Like, all of a sudden I can't just go like wherever I want and, not pay attention to my life, right? I can't just shop and I can't just, do these things. So for some people that happened. But then I think for other people, it was what you were talking about. It was this gradual, okay, this is my new normal. What am I going to do? And then there was this gradual letting go of things because the gym wasn't open anymore. So they didn't have that outlet to go work out. And it's harder to do it at home. Many people who were having to work from home, who are not used to working from home, all of a sudden didn't have that separation from work and home anymore. It all became one. And that's a challenge to try and balance if you've never done that before, on top of being locked inside your home and all that's going on in the world. I think also if you weren't careful in the beginning about not being too bombarded with the media, like if you had your TV going constantly in your house on the news channel, that starts to have an impact on how you feel over time. So I think it's both, Keith. I think for some people it was right away, and then I think for others it was a slow kind of process over a few months, and all of a sudden then they were like, whoa, I'm not feeling so good, and I need to fix this. Something's not right here.
Right. And then they come to you, and you can mentor them through these changes. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, as I always do, there's a reason that you're an expert in your zone of expertise and health and wellness. So, is there any particular journey that you wanted to share with us that said, I think that the epiphany moment sometimes is a series of events. It can be a light bulb moment. I'm not taking it to say that doesn't happen, but sometimes even going into the if it's an apex in the journey of crisis, and it could go either way. There's a series of events that got you to that point, and then to come out of it to be to where you decided that your life is going to take you, and your journey and your impact in the world is going to take you. That's a process as well. But I just love to, basically what I say is this whole interview series is about synchronicity. Synchronicity, it's a game of synchronicity. If the right person is hearing the right story, and they may have heard the story 100 times, but if they're ready to receive it and they find out, wow, that person did that. They did that because they were in the same place there's this identification and connection that's kind of remarkable. So that's the whole premise of this. So this is the time when if you were to tell us, how did you get to this place? It could change someone's life.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more, Keith, that you're right. It is about all of a sudden you're in that place at the right time, ready to receive whatever it is, and it sparks something in you, and it can have that ripple effect and help to shift and really put your life on a completely different path. So a little bit about my journey was, I was like the good girl who did everything I was supposed to do, right? And when I was in my late 20s, I had a career in hairdressing, and and it had been a good career for me. But I was in my late 20s, and I realized that I wasn't really that happy in my life. And I had the recognition that I had always been looking outside of myself for happiness. I had always been doing the things that were supposed to bring me happiness. So until I get this, or unless I have that, and I think a lot of people live that way. And so I wasn't very happy. I didn't really know what was going to make me happy. And I realized I don't even really know who I am. So I started asking myself all those big life questions. Who am I, and what am I here for, and what's my purpose, and what am I, doing with my life? And what I knew in that moment was I didn't know what to do. I just knew that I could not continue living the way I was living. So I would not say that I was depressed or suicidal or anything like that, but I had this I cannot live the rest of my life living this way. There has to be more than this, and I have to figure out what that is. And so through a series of events, I ended up deciding that I was going to just start going to school and learning things. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I had no goal. Like, people go to school usually with a goal and an end in sight, and I didn't. I determined that I was just going to start taking classes in things that were of interest to me and see where it led me. So I quit my job, and I started doing that. And I started with a meditation class. And this was almost 20 years ago. And back then, Keith, meditation was not what it is today. It wasn't mainstream. It wasn't as common. So it was still this kind of woo-woo, out there thing. And it certainly was for me in the life that I was living. And, people thought I was off my rocker. And I kind of thought I was off my rocker a little bit too. But I felt drawn to it. And I felt like this might be something that can help me. So all these classes led to something else. Like, one class would lead to another, and then that would lead to, I want to get certified in this, and this is of interest to me. So I did many, many classes over, I think it was 3 to 4 years, somewhere in there, where I just did classes and workshops and retreats, and I got certified in a whole lot of things. And what I realized during that time, because I was also then doing a lot of healing work on myself, because I was doing these classes in meditation and mindfulness and holistic nutrition and holistic health and energy healing. And then I was also doing the work on myself. And what I learned about myself during that time is that I was really good at taking care of myself on a survival level. I knew how to have a job and be responsible with that job and pay my bills and, look after my survival needs. But I didn't have a clue how to care for myself. And that's a completely different thing. I had never been taught that through no fault of my parents. They were great and they did the best job they could, but they weren't taught that. So they didn't know how to teach that. And, so I didn't grow up with an example of it. And I really learned during that time how to come home, how to care for myself, how to give to myself, how to love myself and nurture myself, and the importance of eating really well and how that just fuels everything else in your system. And, how to set boundaries and how to say no. And so it became a real awakening for me. And when I came out of all of those classes and I was like, now what am I going to do? I thought, wouldn't it have been great if there was like a one-stop shop where I could have learned the foundational principles of how to really care for myself, because then everything else can grow from that. And, there wasn't that. So I thought, why don't I create that? And that's what I set out to do. And so it started off as a very small workshop. This was like 10, 11 years ago. As a very small workshop, I would rent a space at a local church and, get some women. And as long as I was like making the amount of money back for the space, I was happy. I didn't even care about making money from it. And I was, teaching these principles. And then over the years, it has evolved and evolved and evolved to now an online platform and a whole, year-long program that I do. But, it started very small. And I will say that the thing that helped me during the whole time was trusting that inner knowing, trusting my intuition. I had no idea what was going to come of anything. I had no idea what the outcome was, but I felt it inside of me that I needed to shift something and I needed to live a different life. And so I trusted that taking that class and learning meditation. And I trusted being on the journey. And that was a huge piece for me. And I would suggest that to everybody to really, come into listening to that inner voice within you, because we all have it, and trust the process. You don't have to have the roadmap, laid out for you. Be willing to walk on the road and trust that you will know what to do each step of the way, and that it will unfold for you, because it always does.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. I always believe that when somebody can explain that they've lived it, that they can definitely teach it. So you've certainly lived it, and congratulations on that journey. And
thank you.
I think that it really kind of sparks something about there's a little bit of a doubt that if you're going to make a huge change and you're going to commit to a change and sort of surrender some of that old beliefs and all of the things that you've been, how you're living your life, that there's this feeling, I'm just going to speak again for myself, that you're going to lose some of your identity. And even though I would say that if you're in the toxic sort of world, your identity is not really there fully. And so, but there's this, like, I think you said illusion before, but there's an illusion here that if you're in the toxic, you feel like you're yourself. And then when you come to this point in time when you can kind of almost go to the other side and say, I surrender to it. I trust it. I trust it. And I just am here to tell people that if they have that doubt that they think they're going to lose their identity, I think now I'm more myself than I ever have been, because I've taken that kind of a leap that you're talking about, leap of trust, and that realization. It takes some over time, and I realized that for me, that it's like I am, even though I act like a little kid sometimes because of the way that I like to imagine things, and that's really benefited me in my career and my life and everything else. But it's more me than I have been in forever. So it's really a kind of a cool process. And I loved how you talked about the difference between survival and care. Just making it making it through another day is a good way to survive, because I think you do need to survive, obviously, but then the idea that you can become your biggest potential, and that the door is so wide open when you do survive. You get well, to use one of your health and wellness, but when you do get well, and you get well psychologically and physically, because the things that we do put into our body in this society and however this world works, and our I'm just trying to let you understand. I'm applying it to myself. So sorry if I'm getting a little selfish here about how I interpret it, but it's really eye-opening. And the doors that do open when you do trust it is what I'm trying to say. And that was really great how you said that. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love the idea that for somebody who might be listening and taking action on your dreams. If you're thinking about it, say you're on the fence about taking action on your dream, what Amanda just shared about the church and renting space at the place and just, but believing in it so much that it just makes all the difference. And it sounds to me obvious that you were having a lot of fun doing it also. There might be some crazy business considerations, like there's booby traps all over the place, but the minute that you have that, when you guide someone through a moment and they see a change and you see someone smile for the first time, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say that I, could have never in my wildest dreams dreamt that this is what I would have done with my life. Mm-hmm. Like never. Right. But I must say that I do love it, and I love it because I know I've lived it. So I know firsthand that you can come from that surviving level and move up to the thriving level. I talk about the difference between surviving and thriving all the time. And it really is possible. It doesn't matter how low you are in that surviving space. It is possible for you to move up. We underestimate what we can do as human beings all the time. We don't set the bar high enough for ourselves because we're afraid to do that. We're afraid of what could happen. We're afraid that it won't happen, various things. But so I've done it. I know it's possible. And I love, oh my gosh, I cannot even express how much I love having the honor and the pleasure of being able to help other women do that as well. It is such a joy for me. And because I'll say this too, one of the other reasons why I feel so passionate about this is because I know that if we want to live in a healthier world, if we want a different world, which everybody says, that they want, right? Everyone's really good at complaining about what they don't like about, especially right now, what's going on in the world. But if you want that, it starts with you. It starts with you showing up for you, because how you go out in the world and interact with everybody ripples out. So who you are is really important. And that comes from caring for self. Well, I could go on and on. I could go on and on. But I'll stop at that.
No, it's well said. I think that's really, I think it's our responsibility in a way, but we all need help doing that sometimes. It took me my whole adult life to ask for help. And because you think you're supposed to provide. I think a provider's mindset runs through our family. So that's what we did. We did at all costs provide, and in no way will you ever ask for help. And it's because it's a sign of like you're not going to make it. So you come in, either you come into the office or whatever you do. You just I ended up in my business situations, and I'm in film editing. I've had a couple of film editing companies where we had quite a number of people working for us, and you would come in, and basically what I didn't realize that I had done is I created 2 families to provide for. And it was like, so I couldn't, I felt like I was living three different lives, and the place or my actual being was there wasn't a place for me, even though I was in these different places, but I would provide here, the family, provide here at the other family, and then out here trying to make that survival move, and it was a tough place to be. And there was no room to ask for help because you would have to take time. The illusion for me was like, oh, what am I going to do? Have to take like 6 months off to talk to someone about how I can, get better. And I did go to physical, working out and running and yoga classes eventually and things like that make you physically feel better. But those other sort of like stressors weren't being taken care of. But I see that now. I opened my eyes to meet people like you who are, guiding people, that you're attractive to people, and you're probably, I can see it without hardly knowing you, that it would be easy to ask you for help in your program because you project it so well and you lived it, and you're not talking down to people. You're inviting them in and being with you. It's different than being talked at. You're talking with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yes. And thank you for the compliment. I want to add there that, when you were talking about, yoga and working out, we think about health as being a physical thing, right? I have to have a healthy body. But our health is not just about the physical. It's mental health. It's emotional health. It's spiritual health. All of these are interconnected. They all link together like a chain. So you can work on one, and that is fantastic. But if you are not working on the others, those others will undermine the one that you're working on. But if you're working on all of them, they will all support and help each other. You want to be healthy as a whole person. And we are all interconnected. This is not separate from this, separate from that. It is all, we are all like this, it's all intertwined, and it all comes together. So it's so important that when you're giving to yourself and you're caring for yourself and you're working on your health and your well-being, that you're doing that in every area of your life.
Right. It's a balance.
Yeah.
A balance. So would you like to talk about your group or your program a little bit and give a shout out to yourself? This is the time to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
So what I have is an online platform. It is called Your Live Well Journey. And so you can go on yourlivewelljourney.com, and there's loads of free information on there to help you. There's recipes, and there's blog posts, and podcasts. There's a podcast, Your Live Well Journey, the podcast as well. And then I also have a private Facebook group. It's called Live Well Insiders. And that is a group for women who are really interested in really being on the journey of self-care and want to be connected with other women who are also on that journey, because it's really hard to do it by yourself. So when you're with a community and you're with other people, and you can bounce ideas off and get inspiration and all of that, you're far less likely to succeed. Far more likely to succeed with that. And so there is the private Facebook group, Live Well Insiders for Women, and I am in that group all the time. I do lots of events in that group. I'm live every week in that group sharing a self-care tip. In fact, I have an event coming up next week on Tuesday, October 20th. It's called the Healthy Living Seminar, where I will be teaching 4 practices to help improve health in all those areas that I just talked about: mind, body, spirit, and emotion. And so there's that group as well. And then there is, for those women who are really wanting to get further onto that journey, there's the mentoring program. And as I said earlier, it's a year-long program where I work with women one-on-one. And we work on all of the foundational principles of self-care and learning how to release guilt, because women feel a lot of guilt over giving to themselves and the selfish thing and all of that. So we do a lot of work on that. And we do a lot of work on unraveling patterns and beliefs that are not serving you. So often we will repeat the same patterns and we will believe the same things that we grew up with, because that's all we know. And then when we want to learn something new, if we still have that old running, if that's still our default, the new has nowhere to come into our life and grow. So it can come in for a while, and we can do it for a while, but at some point we'll always go back to the default because it's still there. And so we do a lot of work. I do a lot of work with women unraveling those patterns and those beliefs and getting to the core and understanding that. And then, there might be some healing work that has to happen with that. But being able to release those old so that the new has a place to root inside of you and really become now a part of you. So that it's not just this thing that you're doing for 30 days and then you're done. Self-care is not that. It is an everyday thing for the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah. It takes a little while to migrate. It's like this will be the childish part of me, but it reminds me of where there's these special places in the world where the salt water and the fresh water kind of mix and change. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I forget what they're called. There's really interesting things because, it's not just, you can't just throw, 55 gallons of fresh water in the salt water and expect it to, the whole ocean isn't going to change into fresh water. So when we do that 30-minute or 30 days of something, I think sometimes the challenge is that we see a lot of, they're like, I'm going to lose 18 pounds in 30 days. And, chances are you're going to gain 25 pounds in the next 30 days. If you're,
That's right.
Because that's not something that you're taking over. You're just substituting in as a time. I mean, it can be a good kickstart. And if you have some intervention that's going to guide you through, like, this is a lifestyle change, this is a mindset change, those things can work. But if it's, I can't wait to get out of this 30 days and then I'm going to go on some kind of like shopping spree that's going to get me back to exactly where I am or where I was, it just doesn't work. And it's not really good for you either to go up and down. I'm just talking about, say, like weight loss, for example. But yeah, believing that that's the new you and the permanent you is a big shift, a huge shift.
Definitely. And, weight loss is an excellent example, Keith, because this is, people do this all the time, right? There's so many companies that promise you, you can lose X number of pounds in, just in such a short period of time. And yes, you can do that, but is it sustainable? So you're right. It is about being able to shift the mindset and understanding, why are you overweight to begin with? Or why is food an issue for you to begin with? And because if you don't know that, and you have just changed the surface, you've just changed what you're eating, then that's not going to last, because that old pattern, those old beliefs, that old relationship with food, that default is going to kick back in at some point. And when it does, you're going to just go right back into where you were. And then you're probably going to feel worse because you're going to feel bad about yourself because you didn't stick to it. And then that's going to make you feel, bad about yourself. And that's going to maybe want to make you eat even more. And like it snowballs is what I'm saying into a whole other thing. And so it is so much about understanding the pattern. Yeah,
it's like shoots and ladders. I think that some people, they get like this, and then you can do that for a while, and then if you're not careful at the end, you get to that big slide. I don't know if anybody knows that was a kid's game for us. If you get to the wrong slide, you go all the way back to the bottom. And I think we play that a lot in our businesses. Would you give anybody a shot in the arm for those people, the new entrepreneur, the people that might be they might be saying, wow, Amanda's so cool, I want to be like her, she's got it all together, but it's impossible for me. There's no way. This is I have to have $1 million, I have to do this. It's like, could you bust that myth for us?
Yeah, I'd love to. So this is what I believe, and I have said it to myself over the years, and I share it with people all the time. It's this motto that I created, and it is dream big, start small, have it all. So dream big, start small, have it all. So allow yourself, first of all, to dream big. Just allow yourself to think as big as you possibly can in the first place. Most people, as I said earlier, are afraid to really even think of the possibilities of what they could do. But allow yourself to just expand into that and allow yourself to dream really, really big. And maybe write those dreams out so that you have an understanding of them, and it makes it a bit more tangible when they're written out on paper. And then start small does not mean that you play small. It doesn't mean that you are small. What it means is that when you have dared to dream so big, where you are is small in comparison to that. And you start where you are. And you just keep doing one step and one step and one step. And it doesn't matter how small those steps are, as long as they are steps forward in the direction that you want to go. And then when you do that, you get to the place of having it all. And you have more than you even imagined. As I said before, I couldn't even have dreamed that I would be where I am today from where I came from. Could not even have imagined it. But I dared to dream big. I had a dream. I started where I was. I continued to move forward step by step. And sometimes they were little itty bitty baby steps, but they were steps. And every time I fell down, I got back up again and I continued to take the steps. And now I have it all and so much more. So dream big, start small, have it all.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Amanda, thank you so much. I will be respectful of your time here. And what I would love for you to do is to send me some links. And so that when we post this, I'll put a couple of links in the, in our, whatever it's called, I forgot what it was called, the headers for the video. Yeah. So that way they can travel with those links and they can get you. I wanted to say that I don't think you can see the comments, but Susan Connolly said hello, and Mike Miller and Dang said hello. Also, a few people were there, just to give them a mini shout out. And Amanda, I think you froze up just a tiniest bit there. Let's see if you come back.
I can't. No.
Oh, there you are. You
froze as well, so I didn't hear any what you just said.
Okay. So we just froze up in the cyberspace there. So here you are. So I'll wrap it up. Amanda Lee, health and wellness mentor. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll be in touch, and we will keep an eye on you, because I love how you sound, and your program sounds just wonderful. And being a mentor is something special. And I think that everyone could reach out to someone like you. It can really change their life. So thanks for being on today.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Keith.
All right. I'll just say, my name is Keith Salmon from Keith Salmon Coaching, where we make your personal story profitable with the $1 Million Story method. This is a $1 Million Story series where I bring people on like Amanda, who can literally, through the course of a conversation, inspire you to take a move that you may not have thought was possible for you. So thanks again, Amanda. And I would encourage you to check out my Facebook group. It's a private free group called the $1 Million Story Ninjas, where we come in there. I tell you everything I know about my background from film and advertising and storytelling, and how I've merged all of that I know to help the new entrepreneurs use their stories into their businesses and into their marketing and advertising. So thanks again, Amanda. And I can't wait to see all of you in the next time. And we will we'll be right here. So thanks again. And we will all see you real soon.
Thank you.